Hello, I'm Terry. Do you want to learn how to make some baseboards with just this Kingspan and just these little magnets? No woodworking involved. You just keep watching. This is the Terry Nutlob Model Railway Station. Hello, I'm Terry, and this is the Terry Nutlob Model Railway Station. A light here for all things model railways. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is that this channel is not sponsored or subsidised by anyone, so everything you see on this channel I've paid for myself. That's not a big up for me. I'm just saying that if I say something, I've got it from somewhere. I'm not promoting it, I'm just explaining where it came from. Okay, so a lot of people say to me at shows, I'd love to have a model railway, but I don't have the room for it. Well, again, the first part of this episode is to show that everyone can have a space for a model railway, and you can make a model railway on 2 pieces of foam. You don't need loads of tools, and it can be put away in a cupboard or a wardrobe in no more than 60 seconds. And that's great. And so you can get it out, you can use it, you can put it away. And that's the whole point of a model railway. It's fun, it's something to do when you want to. It doesn't take up a load of space in your room. It doesn't take over your house. It's a hobby, and the whole point of this hobby is it's supposed to be fun. So, what I've done is I've gone and got this. Now, this came from Amazon. I'm not promoting Amazon. I'm just saying that's where it came from. It's a Hornby train set, and it's a 00 gauge. Now, most people start with train sets, and this train set is very nice. It's got a loco on there, if you can see on the pictures. A loco, 3 wagons, and the track. We'll come to the track in the second episode. Now, it also comes with a controller, and that's very important because whatever you do, please use the correct controller for a model railway. Don't wire it up to live mains. It will end in disaster. Okay, always read the instructions as well. If you're not experienced with model railways, the instructions will tell you what to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a model railway out of foam, and we're going to be using these little magnets. Now, these little magnets came from Amazon. These are often called rare earth magnets. Now, they're incredibly powerful, and you've got to be very careful with them because, now this is the steel plate that it attaches to. You will see, there we go. They attach very, very strongly. So strongly, in fact, that there's a warning with them that they can actually pinch your fingers and give you a very nasty bite. Now, I can't actually get that apart now. That's how tightly these attach together. So we're going to have to cut, and we'll come back in a minute when I've got that apart. Okay, so I've separated the metal plate from the magnet. Now, as you saw in that little clip before, it snatches on very, very tightly. And the fact that we're going to be attaching these to foam means that if we attach them so that they lock together, as we pull them apart, they're actually going to tear out of the foam. Now, we're going to screw these in because the mounting plate and the magnet have got little holes for screws. It's important that you choose not just the magnets themselves, but ones that have mounting plates and that have holes for the screws to go through them. And the screws I'm using are these plasterboard screws. Now, it doesn't matter that these are plasterboard screws. It's just that they have a thread all the way to the very end. Now, that is important. You don't want to use a screw that often has a blank part at the end there. These are more for woodwork. These are plasterboard screws. Any screw that has a thread all the way to the end will do. And of course, it has to fit through the plate, as you see. Now, when these attach, as you saw before, they truly snap together. With the screw on, you can actually, with a fight, remove it. Now, when we attach these to the foam, we're going to make them in such a way that they don't physically touch. That way, when we separate the foam, you'll just be using the magnetic field and you won't have that real snap that holds them together. So let's get on with that. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to fit the magnets and the plates into the foam. Now we're joined today by Desmond. He's our health and safety duck. Now he always wears his goggles and he's here just to remind us that if we're using things, you know, like sharp knives, craft knives, we've got to be a little bit careful. We don't want to end up in A&E. It's a hobby, it's supposed to be fun. We don't want to end up having accidents. So just be aware of it. I'm not going to bash everyone and go on about health and safety, but we have got to be careful when we're using sharp knives. So what I've done is I've got a little bit of foam here. I've cut it off from a larger piece just because it makes it easy to film. But the principle is the same. When you're doing these magnets, you'll be doing them on the long side. And these pieces of foam, they come in pieces from wicks that are pre-cut. They're 1,200 millimeters by 450 millimeters. And those two joined together will form our baseboard. So you don't have to cut the foam. I've just cut the piece of foam off here. It's very easy to cut with a knife if you want to cut it. But I've just cut a piece of foam off here to make it easy to film. Okay, so I've marked where the magnets and the plate are going to go. And what we're going to do is put the magnet on first. We center it on the X where we've centered where it's going to be. And with a sharp craft knife, we very gently cut round. Now what you want to do is obviously avoid your fingers, but you want to cut down very gently. The foam is very, very easy to cut. In fact, it's so easy to cut, you've got to be careful not to go too deep. You just gently push down with the knife around the edge of the magnet, cutting into the foam. It's as simple as that. There we go, using a little joggling motion to get the last bit done. Now, you can't see this, but there is a little circle cut through the foam now, and I cut with the blade at an angle to cut out. There we go, there's the first piece out, turning the blade around and cutting from the center of the circle to the edge. I cut the next piece out, and so on. And I continue going. There's two pieces out. As we go, we'll cut into the center, getting deeper and deeper. Now we don't want to go so deep. I know this sounds like a contradiction, but we want to keep it just enough for the magnet to fit nice and tightly. I'll keep cutting there slightly, get that last little bit out. We'll have a little test fit. Okay, so what we do now is we put a screw through the magnet the wrong way. That way we can get it back out once we've test fitted it. If you push it into the foam without the screw, you're not going to be able to get it back out. And we've got to add glue to this in a minute. So we'll give it a test fit. There we go. Not quite enough. Doesn't sit down far enough in the foam. We need to take a little bit more out. So we just cut away at the bottom, around the edge there. It will come away in smaller pieces, it doesn't matter. There we go. Clean away the excess, and we'll just retry the magnet into the hole. There we go. If you can see that, that's a nice fit. Now you don't want to push the magnet down into the foam. You can, because this foam is so soft. But if you just physically push it down into the foam, what you'll do is compress the foam underneath. And that then causes a problem later because it will try to push back out. So by removing the foam and making it a nice snug fit, we know that that's going to hold great when we put the glue in. There we go. Now we're going to do the same with the back plate, which I'm going to put here. Now, obviously, this is just an example to show you. And when you do it, what you're going to do is join the two pieces together. So what you're going to need to do with a pen or anything that will mark the foam, pencil will do just as well. You mark a line across the two pieces of foam and center them. And you center the magnets. Now, they don't have to be absolutely spot on because close is good enough. As I've said before, they're not going to actually be touching. As you see, I'm cutting out the foam gently. This one's not so deep. because this plate is much shallower. So we don't need to cut out as much as we did with the magnet. There we go. I'm just using the tip of the blade there to scrape away the excess. Doesn't have to be perfect. Looks a bit raggedy there, as you can see. It doesn't really matter. The point is this will all be filled in a moment with glue. You've got little bits all over the table. So, again, use the screw the wrong way on the plate. Just push the plate in. Now, this is the important part. That plate at the moment is just on the edge. Again, a little bit too high. What we need to do is set this plate that attaches to the magnet about 2 millimeters below the surface of the foam. That way, when we join them together, the plate won't actually snap like it did earlier on onto the magnet. It will just use the magnetic field to attach itself, so that when we separate the foam, it won't pull out. If they physically touch, and you've got that very, I shall demonstrate it again, hard grip. As you see, I'm trying to pull them apart. It really is difficult. These screws going into foam will just rip out, and you'll end up with the magnet attached to the plate on one side. That's no use. So by setting the plate down a couple of millimeters into the foam, which we've done there, that's great. You won't get a problem. You'll just use the magnetic field, and it's like holding the magnet and the plate close to each other but not touching, and then they can come apart easily rather than snap together. So we're going to stick these in with a little bit of glue. Now what I've done is I've roughed up the back of the plates. You probably can't see these, and the magnet with a file. That is a magnet with a file. So what I've done is I've used a file to rough them up. Now if you haven't got a file, you can rub them on concrete or a brick wall even, just to get the shine of this plating off the magnet and the plate so that the glue will attach. If it's really shiny, the glue won't have anything to grip to. If you get that lovely shine off, which is very nice that they put that on, then they'll stick into the foam. Now I'm using a little tool set here. Again, the labels have all been taken off. This again came from Amazon. When you're starting in the hobby, and I know a lot of people watching now will be saying, well, I've been in the game long enough, I've got all the tools, and that's great. But if you're starting in the hobby, you probably don't have any tools at all. So I would recommend getting a little hobby set, as they call it, from Amazon or eBay or anywhere that you purchase it from. Temu also do these hobby sets. You can also buy a starter hobby set from Hornby or from Pico, but then they tend to be about £35, whereas these hobby sets from other manufacturers and other producers, they come down to about £9.95. And when you're starting, you want to keep the cost down. You don't want to be spending out a load of money because you want to enjoy the trains. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to get one of these cheaper things. They do include all the things you need. You've got a little file, you've got a little screwdriver here, you've got a little craft knife, which is essential, and you've got a little filing disc and sanding papers and all sorts of things in there. It's very handy, and some tweezers. It's something you need. It's the basic tools, but you don't need to go overboard right at the start. Okay, so what we're going to do is stick these in with glue. Now, this is very important. Desmond will back me up on this one. Because this is foam, it must be stuck with PVA glue. Now, I'll show you the PVA glue I've used here. This comes from Wix, as did the foam. This is weatherproof PVA glue. Now, it's important, in my opinion, to always use a weatherproof glue. Now, the PVA glues you can get them in Hobbycraft, and you get also things like they're called school glues, etc. These are also PVA glues, but they're not as strong. Please, when you're doing this, get the weatherproof PVA glue. You don't have to buy a great big 5 litre thing. I often get it in 5 litres. Get a smaller one when you're starting. You won't be using that much, but always go for the weatherproof PVA glue. It's a much stronger glue, and you need that for this sort of job. Okay, so I've put a little bit of PVA glue into a container here. I'm using a brush. I'm going to use the brush to apply a lot of glue into the hole. I literally fill the hole completely with glue. Don't think you're putting too much in, because a lot will squeeze out the edge. That's great, that's what you want. You fill the hole completely up with glue with the brush. Put the brush down, obviously. We use the screw. We put the screw the correct way through, because there's a recessed part in the actual magnet. Now this time we're going to use the screw through the glue and the magnet to attach it. So we push the magnet in to the hole, and as you see, all the glue squeezes out the middle. That's exactly what you want. It's all squeezing out. Push it down, keep pushing it down, and all the glue is squeezed out the edge. As you turn the screw in, this is important. I'm using the screwdriver here that came with this little tool set. I'm just twisting it very, very gently. As the screw goes down through all of that glue, it's taking glue on the threads down into the foam. And I go down until I feel just a tiny bit of resistance, and that's it. If you keep turning like you would put a screw into wood and keep tightening and tightening, it will just twist round. Then all the threads in the foam will chew up, and you'll lose the whole point of putting the screw in. So you just want to do it until there's a tiny bit of resistance, and then it's set. We'll do the same again, remembering that we've already roughed up the back of this plate. We get glue on the brush. We put a load in, because we want to fill that hole completely with glue. Absolutely fill it up. You can't have enough glue in that hole. All the little voids and the little tears in it that you might have made in cutting the hole will all be filled up with the PVA glue, like that. Then we put the plate in. We press it down slightly, and the glue, as you can see, squeezes out the middle, which is great. We get the second screw. We put that through the middle. And with the screwdriver, we just very, very gently turn it down. I'm not pressing down onto the screw. I'm letting the screw thread just take itself down into the foam. No pressing at all. It's just taking itself down into the foam. As it gets to the bottom, I do a tiny little twist. I feel some resistance, and then I stop. As I say, if you over tighten it, you'll tear the foam up and it won't hold. And that's it. Now, all of that glue we'll wipe away with the cloth in a minute, and I'll show you what we end up with. Okay, so I've just got a wet microfiber cloth. It doesn't have to be microfiber, it could be anything, a wet rag, because PVA is water soluble. So while it's in this state, we can very, very easily wipe away excess glue with just a damp cloth. No skills, no hard work involved. Easy. Okay, and that's it. Now what you'll end up with is basically this repeated on the other piece of foam, and when they lock together, the magnet will go onto the plate will go onto the magnet, and the two will join together. And because that plate is recessed by that tiny little bit and it doesn't touch the magnet, they'll be easy to pull apart. They won't rip out, but they will hold together enough that when they're on the table or the floor, the train will pass across them with no problems at all. Okay, so let's cut back to the next piece and I'll show you the finished item. Okay, so here we are with the two boards. Now, it's important as well, I forgot to mention just at the end of the last piece there, that once you've stuck the magnets and the plates in, you want to leave them for at least 48 hours for that glue to set. Because the glue that's down in the foam won't be getting the air like it will right on the surface. And so it takes 48 hours to set. If you try to pull them apart and test them, I know what it's like. We all want to see has it worked. But if you do it before 48 hours, again, they'll just rip out and they'll defeat the point of what you've done. So be patient, wait 48 hours, and then you'll end up with this. Now, as you can see, these two pieces of board are on the table. As I separate them, you can see that we've got a magnet here and we've got a plate there. And as I showed you earlier, you've got the same at the bottom. As we bring them together, they just lock together. Now, they're easy to come apart, but they hold together enough that when the tracks go across this and a train passes across the join, they won't come apart. They're easy to take apart. We can take them apart. We can put one on top of the other, and we can put this in a cupboard, in a wardrobe, out the way. When we get scenery on, which I'll show you in the next few episodes, when we get the track on, they can be stacked in a way that goes like this, with the scenery and the track between the two. And we'll get onto that in a later episode, but we'll join them back together, like so. As you can see, just align them, and the magnets hold them together. Simple as that. There we go, they snap together and come apart. And in the next episode, I'll be dealing with the track. We'll be looking at the track that comes in the set, and we'll be dealing with getting points and mixing Pico set track with Hornby track, because people have asked me, can you mix the two together? And the simple answer is yes. So we'll be talking about track in the next episode. We'll be laying track on this board. And what I'm going to do now is go and paint this a nice green with an emulsion paint. It will take 2 or 3 coats to cover up the silver. And that way it will already start to look like a baseboard for a model railway. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share with people that you think might benefit from this experience. Don't forget, this is the Terry Nutlob Model Railway Station. There's going to be a lot of episodes to do with all things model railways. This is just the start. So please like and subscribe. It's free to you and it helps the channel. And all that's left to say is a nice one. I'll see you next time.